Who doesn't love a good story? I mean, really, we go to the movies, we pay to see a great story. We pay to see sad stories, we pay to see happy stories, inspiring stories. We love to hear a good story. But what about the stories you're telling yourself? What about those stories that are maybe improving your life or that you're telling every day that are maybe making your life worse? We're going to talk about it on today's podcast. Hi, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a ballroom dance professional, a life coach, and a peak performance expert. I'm part of a group of motivated people who are dedicated to attaining emotional mastery and unlocking our full potential. We don't believe others are responsible for how we feel. In fact, we don't believe anyone can make us feel anything. We believe in the magic of ballroom dance. It has taught us how to improve our bodies, challenge our minds, and inspire our souls. And in return, I want to share those lessons with the world. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life. Welcome back, everybody. So glad to have you here today, and excited to talk to you about this idea about the stories that you're telling yourself. As we said in the intro, it's always fun to hear a great story. It's entertaining. It's one of the things that we do to learn, and it's another of the things that we do to entertain ourselves. And we also use great stories to teach future generations. And so it's important that we understand what the power of these stories is and what maybe can hurt us. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this concept of telling yourself the stories that you're telling. Some of the stories that you engage with through your daily life are all about stories you're hearing from the outside in. But what about the stories that you are telling? The ones that you say to other people, the ones that you are telling yourself. A lot of people are still coming to grips with the idea that we talk to ourselves on a regular basis, but this is how we work. This is how we operate. And so one of my favorite quotes is, the quality of our communication is the quality of our life. And this is huge. This idea is a really big deal, because if you communicate to yourself poorly, then clearly you're going to have a poor life, because it is how you shape your world around you. Your perspective and your model of the world is easily determined by the way that you talk to yourself and the way that you talk to others. And so it's super important for you to realize that we've got to improve your communication to yourself, the language that you use, the words that come out of your mouth. These are all things that will improve your life or make it worse, as it were. So think about it. You probably have a friend that loves to tell you stories. They love to talk. They love to just get in and tell you what's going on in their life. And we all have that friend. We all have that person that's in our life that just loves to come in and tell you everything that's going on, and they do it on detail. And there's only so much you can take of that particular friend, because you hear all their stories and you know about them. And then it gets even better when they start telling you the same stories again, and you're like, I've heard that one already. And you try to find nice ways to interrupt and let them know that you've already heard that story multiple times. But internally, we also have these stories that we tell. Now, a story is interesting. You don't have to have this big, long novel, so it's not necessarily about, a start to finish. It's not like you would go to the movies kind of a story for it to actually affect you. But what kind of story are you telling yourself about what you are good at and what you're not good at? These are stories that we come up with, and we've learned them from, well, the beginning of our life. We have come up with things that we say, oh, I'm not good at that. Well, why have you said that you're not good at that? If you dig back in and you've picked something out that you say, oh, I'm not good at that, oftentimes it's because you have some story that you have created in your own mind, and you've associated with the idea of not being good at that thing. Maybe as a young person, let's say you were trying to learn a language and you had some failures. Maybe you just weren't as successful at it as some of the people around you. And so you decided you weren't good at it because when you were a child, you tried to learn it, you had some failures, some people told you were bad at a language, or that you sounded horrible, or that it just wasn't something for you, and you agreed to it. You listened to it, and then you started telling yourself that story. Uh, Great story that I love to tell now is about my daughter, my oldest daughter. She was having some troubles in math and wasn't getting the grades that we saw her getting in her other classes. And as we dug in, you could see that her self-belief about math was that she wasn't any good at math. And I couldn't quite understand why she felt that way, because in her other subjects, she felt like she was doing great. She was getting a good grade. She was, doing well on the tests and interacting well with the teachers. But for some reason in math, she just wasn't able to do it. Now, there's nothing as valuable as a good teacher. Oh my goodness, a good teacher, a good mentor can help you go a long way. Unfortunately, during these early times in math, my daughter was subject to what many of us are subject to. Somebody that really wasn't as involved in her learning, didn't find a way to get through her learning style. And this made it challenging because maybe other kids around her were doing well, which it seems like that's the case, and she started to feel more and more like she was bad at math. We took some aggressive action, and we got her a mentor, and we got her into a position where she was no longer in that same teaching situation with those same teachers. And this mentor kind of changed her world and changed her perspective. And little by little, we've started to get her to understand that she is great at math. And so now when you listen to her talk, she doesn't say she's bad at it. Every now and then it creeps in, and it's amazing how much that story that she was telling herself, or that somebody started by telling her, oh, well, you're not good at math, or well, you can't do this very well. And with some hard work and some education and some great help from her mentor, she's little by little turned it around, and now doesn't believe that she's bad at math. She understands she has to work at it, and it's a skill she can learn. And you can hear it in her language. You can hear it in how she talks and what she says about math. But there's little pieces of that story still left there. And little by little, we've got to work on improving the story that she tells herself, and maybe even the story that she tells to the people around. Because what we do is we look for support. As humans, we want to look for camaraderie and connection and support. And so we tell these stories in some instances just to get support from those people around us and be able to get connected. So let's take that example for a moment and expand upon it. So let's say I'm around my friends and I say, oh, I'm just not very good at math. I'm not good at it. And maybe you have 2 or 3 friends that are hanging out with you go, yeah, you know what? I'm not good at math either. And I'm just not good at it. I just can't do it. And these are little tiny stories that you tell yourself that hold you back. They become what I call false beliefs. And these false beliefs in your mind are supported by a pillar of stories. And at first, maybe it's 1 story or 2 stories. And then over time, as you continue to tell these stories, you gain and add more, and you find the reasons why these things are actually indeed true from your perspective. And so sometimes you have to look back at your stories, the things that you're telling yourself, the things that you're telling your friends and your family and the people around you about what you are good at and what you're not good at. And these stories have to be improved upon. They have to actually be reworked, and you have to start to talk to yourself in a better way and improve the quality of your communication to yourself first, and then start working on the quality of your communication to other people, because these stories that you tell yourself, they create your life. They create your life story. And if you're telling bad stories, well, that's going to affect your life. It's going to affect the world around you. Now, if you're not familiar with the law of attraction, I'm sorry that I'm the first one introducing it to you, but I am also excited that this might be the first time you're hearing of the law of attraction. This is something you should study. It's something that you should get familiar with. On its most basic level, the idea is what you focus on, you get. What you focus on, you get. And if you're focusing on these bad stories, these false beliefs, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get more of these things in your world. And so you oftentimes hear this old saying, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Part of the reason is the stories that they're telling themselves. As rich people, and I'm not talking about monetary, but that is also part of being rich. But I'm talking about being rich in spirit and soul and body. And the people that are getting richer are the ones that go, oh yeah, I had success there. And oh yeah, I can do this. And these are the things that I can do. Nothing's holding me back. And the stories that they're telling themselves support themselves. Now, everybody is still human. We all are still operating from the same type of body. We're all going from the same place. We have similar experiences that we can maybe associate with other people to help us improve. That's why you find mentors. But as you go through this life, we all operate in a very similar way. We have a brain, we have a heart, we have a soul, and we've got to use that in the most appropriate way. So the law of attraction says what you focus on, you get. Basically, what the waves, the vibrating waves that come out of your body through the energy that you're producing and creating and utilizing every day, these are the things that help attract other things to you. So you've maybe heard this idea of like attracts like, and that's huge. Like attracts like. So if you're telling these horrible stories over and over again that are limiting beliefs for you, those like stories will attract other like stories. And so people that can commiserate with you and people that can connect with you on those levels will find a way to do that. And now you'll all get together and go, well, we're all bad at math, so we're just not going to do math. But if you go hang out with somebody that is great at math, they're going to have a different story, and they're going to probably tell you you're not bad at math, you just need to understand it better. And so they'll tell you a new story. They'll get you going on a new type of story. This is huge. I hope that I've spurred something in your mind today and that you've started to think about a different way of maybe addressing the stories that you tell. But start with some of the easy ones. Start with some of the small things. What are some of the stories you tell yourself all the time? Oh, I don't work out. Why don't you work out? What's the story behind it? Or I'm bad at math. What's the story behind it? Or I just can't spell. Okay, what's the story behind it? Now I'm using simple things like that because I want you to look at it from a simple perspective. Oh, I'm not an entrepreneur. Oh, come on. What story have you told yourself to convince yourself that you're not an entrepreneur? You have tons of stories. You tell yourself these stories on a regular basis, and I would love for you to go in and start to do that. So if you have a moment, if you have a journal, if you don't have a journal, that's fine. Maybe get one. Maybe take out your phone and write in your notes. But just get in and take a few notes on maybe some of the little stories that are holding you back. Some of the stories that you tell yourself on a regular basis, on a daily basis, that have created something negative in your world, and let's start to address them. The first step is identification. The first step, you have to identify. The first step before anybody else in the world believes it is you have to believe it. You have to believe that you can do some of these things. And even if you're bad at it now, well, everybody's bad at something for a while until you work at it and put the time and the effort to become better at it. And so I want you to take some time, focus on maybe some of the negative or stories that are holding you back, and really use that to take a step forward. I am so excited you joined me today, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
Are you loving Magic for Life? Please like and share our podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Interested in learning to ballroom dance? Check out ballroomforlife.com/free for a free 3-day trial. You can learn to dance right in your own living room and change your life forever.